Hello, this is the final session of the Chopin Etude. Everyone, let's give our best and finish strong. Alright, let's get started right away. Next, it repeats the same way. Piano, right? Like this, and then this part changes. Here too, the left hand changes like this. Now what is this chord?
A flat minor chord.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's an A flat minor chord. The C flat has moved. I'm going too fast, right? You should stop and try to figure out the chord, okay? So it's A flat, B flat, something like that, right? This part goes
Down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
like this, and this part also requires some left hand leaps. You need to practice it perfectly. The right hand isn't difficult. It's kind of like this feeling. It's like waving your hand when saying goodbye. So you need to relax your hand and play like this. Instead of playing with tension, relax and play naturally like this. For this part too, you need to do a down up motion. Down up here too.
Down, up, down, up, down, up.
So the melody goes B flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. That's it. But this part is tricky. The challenge is moving from G flat to D flat, right? The ending part always seems difficult. I think there's a psychological reason for that too. Because it's the end of the phrase, there's a tendency to rush through it. But please perform it well all the way to the end. So there's a leap to D flat here. This part is tricky. Like this. A flat, D flat,
La, re,
and then
down, up, down, up, down, up.
here too, it's like a natural wrist movement. You need to play with this kind of feeling, right? Relax your hand. Don't play with tension like this. If you don't know the feeling, try doing this. Everyone, relax and play like this. Then just think of it as moving your fingers. You can play like this. Those two measures repeat exactly the same. Next, because there are many leaps, the left hand is tricky. Let's find the chord.
A flat minor chord. C flat, D flat 7, C flat. A flat, C flat, T flat, C flat.
These important chords keep repeating. These chords aren't that difficult in this etude. So while practicing, the bass goes C, D, C, B. It repeats like this.
Do, re, do, si, do, re, do, si.
Now, but everyone, is this note important or is this note important? This note is important. So you shouldn't play all in strong beat.
Down, up, down, up.
It's like down, up with this kind of feeling. So when playing with the left hand, it sounds like this. If you play fast, it sounds like this.
Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up.
Right? I'm not sure if this expression is right, but it's like letting go, you know? It's like flicking it gently. So, like this. Since there are many leaps here, you need to practice the left hand a lot. This part is surprisingly tricky. Next is A flat minor, right? Technique here isn't too difficult, but you need to feel the half steps. It starts as A flat minor and then becomes A flat 7. This is A flat minor and this is A flat major. So feel the half step transition. Here I use just my thumb. Here too, there's a half step crescendo going upward.
Crescendo.
Then comes the climax, giving it a finishing touch. It's not too hard. Now, the right hand is the same here. After this, it feels like waving your wrist as if saying goodbye. Then, this part changes. It has a slightly different feel. Since the notes aren't too hard, I'll just move on. Next, here, I play this part like this, using 4, 2, and 1. So, it's breaking down the chords. Practice positioning after playing this to reduce the chance of mistakes. Instead of focusing on each note individually, work on your positioning, like this. Then moving downward. As you can see, the notes just go straight down the black keys, like this, all the way down. These are descending notes. The notes themselves aren't difficult, but what's tricky is playing E flat followed by D flat with the 5th finger. So, how I practice is by doing this and then practicing positioning. Practicing positioning like this, and it's the same here. You don't have to strictly follow the finger numbers here. Some people rotate their fingers like this. You see, something like this. I finish with pianissimo here and adjust it like this. So, you support with the left hand a tempo. Slow down, then back to a tempo. There's smorzando, right? Smorzando, as if fading away. Gradually soften the sound while slowing down. It gradually slows down. Similar to ritardando. Then it fades away and you start again. Everything starts over. Here too, G flat, down, up, down, up. This marks the end.
Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up.
Then start again. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Followed by an arpeggio. Alright, we'll look at this later. Let's work on the right hand. This is the same, down, up. This is the pattern we learned in the previous session. This part follows a similar pattern. You see? Then it moves upward. It's very similar, like what we learned in the 3rd session. Then here too, it repeats. It's the same, right? So what's different? The first one is E flat and the second is D flat. Some people get confused and end up playing the first part again. So be careful. Watch out for E flat and D flat. Got it? Next, this part is tricky. The right hand here is challenging, right? Why? Because there are a lot of stretches, especially for 2 and 4. Here, 3 to 4, 2 to 4 combinations make it difficult. Even I found this part very challenging. Practice moving from G flat to E flat. Then practice preparing your second finger to play the A flat. You need to practice this part a lot. Yes, you should also focus on practicing the first beat here. First, practice playing the notes clearly and precisely. Then, continue practicing the first beat. Once you're comfortable with the first beat, practice 2 beats at a time. After that, practice 1 full measure, then practice playing it faster. If that works, move on to 2 measures. Then 1 full measure again, right? While doing this, identify any uncomfortable sections and work on them separately. I mentioned earlier that this part might feel uncomfortable, didn't I? Yes, this part is quite challenging. Next, align the left hand with an A flat. Align it like this. When playing fast, align it like this. Emphasizing that the left hand should be more prominent than the right hand. It's the same here. Next, this part comes up. Here, it's G flat. It's just the G flat chord repeating. It's just octaves repeating until the end. The chords aren't difficult, right? But what's tricky is positioning your hand correctly. For example, playing and catching these two notes is challenging. Since catching those notes is difficult, practice it separately like this. It feels something like this, right? If you're unsure about this, you might use unnecessary tension to find the position. After practicing positioning, play the next note without forcing it. Just relax and tap lightly. Just a light tap. That way, you'll be able to play like this later, right? So that you can later play naturally when speeding up. You really need to relax for these two notes. Just think of it as lightly connecting the notes. The real focus is on this chord, right? For the left hand, you need to rotate it in intervals of a tenth, right? The distance between the notes is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It moves in tenth intervals. This part also moves in tenth intervals, like this. You must use your wrist for this. Use your wrist like this. Practice the right and left hands separately first. When playing both hands together, practice this section separately as well. Then practice up to this part separately. If you find this part too uncomfortable, then practice it until it feels comfortable. Practice up to here. Work on it separately. Identify the uncomfortable sections and focus on those. This part is really challenging. Why is it hard? Because we always practice from the beginning. That's why I have my students practice from the end during lessons. In this case, you read the sheet music in order, but practice starting from the end. If this part feels uncomfortable, I recommend starting practice from the end. Next, the octave descends. If you don't find your position, you'll use too much tension and your speed will suffer. So think of it as just lightly placing your fingers. Tap, tap, tap. Try doing this on a table. This kind of feeling, completely relaxed. But if you try to force it, tension builds and mistakes happen. If you memorize the position accurately, you won't need to use much force. For this part, there's no choice but to practice a lot, right? Play with a completely relaxed, light tapping motion, not with tension, but with this kind of relaxed feeling. It's like this. What I emphasize is accurately memorizing the positions. Since this part uses mostly black keys, it can feel unfamiliar. So make sure to practice that a lot. When practicing, focus on avoiding unnecessary tension. It's crucial to have a light tapping motion. Next, the left hand needs to be emphasized. This piece is about 4 or 5 pages long. You need to plan where to emphasize and where to ease off. For example, here is where it restarts. When restarting here, you lose energy here a lot because you use a lot of energy in the earlier part. So you need to manage that balance well, decide where to relax and where to add emphasis. Relax here. Slow down at this part, then restart. This part requires careful control of dynamics. You need to plan this thoroughly. The pedal markings are in the sheet music, but you don't have to follow them strictly. However, I recommend keeping the pedal clean. Make sure it doesn't sound messy. So press and release, press and release. It's very simple. This one, just one pedal to connect it. For half steps, avoid overlapping by changing the pedal carefully. Because if not change pedal, it sounds messy. So take an extra care on this half steps. Since this is all G-flat chords, you only need to change the pedal occasionally. Got it? Alright, that's it for today. You've all worked really hard. The Chopin Etude is such a difficult piece, right? Just attempting a piece like this is truly impressive. If you practice by following this, it will definitely help you when you play other pieces, or even the musical aspects, whether it's techniques, understanding harmony. Etudes aren't just about technique. I hope you enjoy the music itself as well. Alright, see you next time, everyone.